This podcast is part of the It Was a Thing on TV podcast network.
We had a humorous open planned for the opening of this episode since we're in the holiday season. Unfortunately, given the passings of so many people just in the last week, I think it would be kind of gauche to do that right now. We'll save it for next week's episode. Rest in peace to Gil Gerard, Anthony Geary, Bob Burns, and sadly, Rob Reiner. We're going to have a little moment of silence here. Our episode will start shortly. Thank you for your contributions. An anthology on the bad, the short-lived, and forgotten shows and events in television history. You are listening to It Was a Thing on TV.
Time is up. You ran into trouble.
Episode number 600! Guys, we made it to 600 episodes. Submission number 049. Joanie Loves Chachi. Joanie Loves Chachi aired on ABC from March 23rd of 1982 to May 24th of 1983 for 17 episodes. 17 of the absolute worst episodes of anything to ever air on television.
Now, hold on a second. Should we do the theme live for the 600th episode?
I say yes.
Okay, let's do it.
Something magic in the way you hold me in your eyes.
No one ever warned me love just takes you by surprise. I don't know what's come over me. You got me hypnotized when you look at me. You look at me, soft as any touch could be, and suddenly there's magic when you look at me. I feel like I'm in heaven every moment when you look at me. Look at me, and suddenly I'm captured in your eyes. You
You know, this is one of the times I wish this was a video podcast, because while that was playing, we had Santa and the Whammy dancing together to that. And then ultimately, in the end, they had a very loving embrace and locked lips. Happy holidays to you two lucky kids. So this is 600. This is the biggie. You knew it had to come sooner or later. We're talking about the infamous spinoff to Happy Days. Joanie and Chachi, they get together, but also on top of that, they try building a music career. And this is roughly the early to mid 60s, so this is of the time of Beatlemania, and there's actually an episode titled Beatlemania, so that gives you a time frame as to when this is happening, 1964-ish. As you could tell in the open, it's musical, and really you get yacht rock sort of vibes.
Hey, Mike.
Yes?
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, Bizarre Whammy.
Why is this asshole I'm looking at keep really smiling at me?
Oh shit. Again, I wish this was a video podcast so you can see Bizarro Whammy looking at David Stearns. Oh my gosh.
And that creepy ass smile of his. This frickin' Stephen Miller smiling mofo.
Oh my gosh. And as I told Greg earlier, he's got that stupid grin on his face whenever he does interviews. Like he's the smartest person in the room when he's the absolute dumbest person in the room. It's just absolutely friggin' amazing. Especially given what he's done the last 2 weeks. Especially the last week or so. But we're not here to talk about how one person is single-handedly ruining the Mets. We're here to talk about, hey, actually, this is good timing. Again, talking about 1964, early 60s. The Mets came into existence in 62, so this is right around the time of the Mets' infancy. We have Joanie Cunningham from Happy Days and Chachi Arcola. And as I said, now they're getting together and they're starting a music career. And as I said in the opening, you heard that was just one giant song as done by those kooky kids. But it wasn't in the form of the traditional Happy Days themes. That was more 50s music, and this was sort of sappy light rock. In their band, besides Joanie and Chachi, they had a drummer named Bingo and Chachi's cousins Mario and Annette. Beyond the band, there were also some other characters who made appearances. Specifically, you had Luisa Del Vecchio, who happened to be Chachi's mother, and also Al Del Vecchio, who was the owner of Arnold's Drive-In in Happy Days. So maybe you have an idea as to one name that we're going to see in the cast in a little bit. You also had Chachi's uncle, Rico Mastorelli, who was the band's manager. So now that we know that this is generally about the life of the couple and their musical exploits, I think what we need to do is we need to get into the cast. Who's Joanie? Who's Chachi? We know who they are, but just for official purposes, who are Joanie and Chachi? We'll start with Chachi first. Chachi Arcola, as I said, played by Scott Baio. Yes, the same Scott Baio who won numerous Oscars for his performance in the award-winning movie from 1982, Zapped.
Maybe the greatest moment from our old podcast Twitter account was that one person who thought it was real.
And every time we bring up Scott Baio, we are going to mention that tweet, that person, because, yes, that really, truly did happen. And he called us out and like, well, no, Zapp didn't win any Oscars. It's like, did you see where this came from? It came from The Onion, back when The Onion was really, 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 really clever.
No, and now it's ruined by the disinformation guy from NBC News.
It's not as good as his former self, yeah. Playing Joanie Cunningham, as you might expect, from Happy Days, Aaron Moran. So no real surprises for those two. We knew that Chachi was being played by Scott Baio, and we knew Joanie Cunningham was being played by Aaron Moran, like she had done for the previous 8 years. Playing Al Del Vecchio, we talked about him earlier, and as I said, he ran Arnold's Drive-In on Happy Days. Al Molinaro. I think best known for Happy Days, but I think we definitely cannot minimize him being Officer Greshler on The Odd Couple. That was such a great role. Plus also, didn't he do ads for, oh gosh, what's the brand of food that Richard Kind sells now? Not Stouffer's, something similar. Encore. That's what it is. Encore. I think he did Encore ads back in the 80s and 90s. Playing Mario Mastorelli, who happens to be one of Chachi's cousins and part of the band, is Darrell Maury. He's done a lot of stuff. He's still active even nowadays, but unfortunately, you wouldn't really necessarily know him for one other thing. Joanie Loves Chachi. He did 5 episodes of Happy Days as Mario Mastorelli as well, among other characters. The only other things worth mentioning, he did 5 early episodes, season 1, season 2 episodes of One Day at a Time. He was on 7 episodes of something called Apple Pie, and he did voices on 16 episodes of Devlin. If you remember Devlin back in the day, the cartoon. But other than that, made a number of appearances on episodes, but primarily has done movies for much of the last 25 years. Playing Luisa Arcola Del Vecchio, Chachi's mom, we might be making a case for her for the Hall of Fame, just throwing it out there. Ellen Travolta. We talked about her on Making It. She played Lillian on Charles in Charge. She's the sister of John Travolta.
Oh, speaking of John Travolta, he has a new Capital One Santa ad this year.
Really? I didn't know this. And he did such a great one. I think it was last year. It might have even been 2 years ago. But that's great. A new Santa ad with John Travolta. Is he going to do the hustle like he did in the previous one, or is it like totally all new?
It's totally all new this year.
Oh, I'm going to have to look out for that. I'm sure it'll be on TV plenty in the next couple of days. But also, and I found this out today, doing a little bit of internet searching and stumbling, Ellen Travolta was on a series called Number 96, which is a candidate for coverage next year for various reasons. One of which I think truly is Number 96. I think that's what the show would be called if Paul Lynde had dyslexia. Happy 96! Something like that. Sorry, I won't use AI to turn the Happy 69 clip into Happy 96. No. Playing Annette Mastorelli, the other cousin of Chachi, Mario's sister, is Winifred Friedman. Again, she's been doing stuff for a pretty long time. But again, not really known for one thing. She does an episode here, an episode there, appears in movies. But she's still reasonably active. Last credit was from 2021. She was in an episode of Shameless. Playing Bingo the drummer, who is a little spaced out. So he's got to be one of those goofy drummers. He's got to be, well, I don't want to make a comparison to the Muppets using Animal, but at the same time, he does sound a little gonzo. And I'm not making a pun there. He does sound like a character. Robert Pierce. Again, this is about as good as it gets. But also at the same time, again, still reasonably active. His last role was 2020 in 68 Whiskey. Hey, that's right between 67 and 69.
Happy 69.
I don't know why I made reference to that. One more person, a note to mention, playing Uncle Rico. No, not that Uncle Rico from Napoleon Dynamite. Talking about Uncle Rico Mastorelli, another person who I think might be able to make a Hall of Fame case. Art Matrano. Where could we start with him? We've talked about him plenty, but he has done so much stuff over the years.
He was Mauser in Police Academy 2 and 3.
But not 4.
Not 4. But, Chico, remember, he was this ticket scalper in the episode where Punky and Henry went to the NLCS on Punky Brewster.
Yes.
Okay, I think that by itself, on top of this, and the other things we've talked about, I think I might have to put him in the hall. He was the ticket scalper who sold Punky Brewster and Henry the tickets to the NLCS.
But not only did he sell them tickets, he sold them fake tickets, because when Henry and Punky went to their seats that were occupied by freaking trying to forget,
Bonnie Ursef?
Bonnie Ursef and the other nun. The ticket said on it, NLCS, October 1884.
Oopsie.
That's almost as insulting as Henry getting the question about what the windiest city in America was wrong.
And probably even worse, the time he was asked that question about where's Sherry at, and he said, I thought she was just going to the refrigerator to grab a drink.
Well, not as bad as when TK Carter got everybody in Punky in her class around to watch the Challenger launch.
Oh, no.
No.
Oh, stop. So those are the major characters for this series. We got 17 episodes. Let's hop in and see what type of mischief these two kids get into. We'll start with episode 1 of season 1, titled Chicago. Joanie and Chachi move to Chicago, where they audition for a summer singing job, but Joanie is considered too wholesome for the gig. We have appearances by Joanie's mom and dad, so that means Marion Ross as Marion Cunningham and Joe Mosley as Howard Cunningham. Episode 2 is titled The Performance. The band has a big audition for a record producer, but Chachi's attitude causes Joanie to decide to attend her nephew's birthday party in Milwaukee instead of singing with the band. Nobody of note, so episode 3 is I Do, I Don't, I Do. Joanie notices a guy looking at Annette during a performance at Del Vecchio's, and she and Chachi introduce Annette and the guy, Wendell. They quickly hit it off and decide to get married within 3 weeks of their first meeting. Prior to the wedding rehearsal, however, Wendell makes a pass at Joanie. The person playing Wendell in this episode is Anson Downs. Not really known necessarily as an actor. The only thing of real note I see is he was on 5 episodes of the Dave Thomas Comedy Show. And he was also on 6 episodes of The Man from Atlantis. But he's a little more known as a producer, I think. He co-executive produced 10 episodes of Die Hart, which, don't tell me that's a Kevin Hart thing. And yes, it is a Kevin Hart thing. Good heavens. Why are you laughing? Do you know about how much I absolutely despise Kevin Hart?
I bet you love the scene in Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, when Bill the serial killer from Too Many Cooks gave him that cake. Because as we all know, his character in Jumanji has a weakness for cake.
I've never seen Jumanji.
Oh, Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, the one with The Rock and Kevin Hart, Karen Gillan, and Jack Black. Those movies are excellent. They're filming the next Jumanji movie right now. They're all good. They're great.
I've never seen either of the Jumanji movies, so I'm going to just take your word for it. Oh, he is also an associate producer in the movie Swordfish with Halle Berry. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, that's your favorite scene of all time, Halle Berry in Swordfish.
You know what I'm talking about.
And speaking of John Travolta and Hugh Jackman, and we all love Hugh Jackman. I mean, come on.
Episode 4 is titled College Days. Chachi becomes jealous when Joanie becomes a favorite among college fraternity brothers.
Woo!
The college fraternity brothers in this episode are nobody of significance. And that's it for season 1. Just 4 episodes. But obviously, in its brief run, it must have done well enough to garner a second season. So, in fall of 1982, we get the next season of Joanie Loves Chachi. And that starts off with episode 1 for season 2, Fonzie's Visit. Fonzie decides to pay a visit to Joanie and Chachi in Chicago, That's the capsule. Fonz visits Joanie and Chachi. Boy, I wonder who plays the Fonz in this episode. Oh my gosh, it's Henry Winkler.
Hey!
Episode 2 is titled Joanie's Roommate. The Cunninghams are concerned when they call Joanie late at night and Chachi picks up the phone. Maybe an uh-oh here? I don't know. Uh-oh, they're having relations.
Uh-oh.
Boy, that'd be great if we actually had an uh-oh that said that. Uh-oh, they're having relations. And as you might expect, Tom Bosley and Marion Ross appear as Howard Cunningham and Marion Cunningham, respectively. Episode number 3 of season 2 is titled One-on-One. Joanie and Chachi argue about gender superiority. Chachi believes that specifically men are better than women at basketball, so Joanie challenges him to go one-on-one with her female friend who plays on the school's team. Meanwhile, Al faces possible tax evasion charges, but he swears he has paid them. The basketball-playing friend of Joanie in this episode, they got a ringer, guys. Nancy Lieberman.
Oh, yes, Nancy Lieberman, one of the all-time great women's basketball players from back in the day.
Yeah, Nancy Lieberman is one of the absolute greats of basketball back in the 70s and 80s. A true pioneer. If Nancy Lieberman didn't crawl, you wouldn't have people like Caitlin Clark walking right now. Episode 4 is titled No Nudes is Good Nudes. Joanie goes out for coffee with her art teacher. She says it isn't a date, but Chachi insists it is. He goes to Joanie's school to check up on her teacher and sees that he's a young blonde. To avoid being seen by Joanie as she and other students enter the room, he tells the teacher that he is the model and soon learns that he will be posing nude. Meanwhile, Al wants to join the Chicago Leopard Lodge. Moving on to episode 5, which is titled Everybody Loves Aunt Vanessa. Louise's friend from high school, Vanessa, who is a record producer, comes for a visit and asks the band to play for her. Mario suspects Vanessa is interested in Chachi for more than just his music. Wow. And playing Vanessa, another person who, if she's not in the hall, she's got to be there. She's had such an amazing career. We're talking about Jessica Walter. Where do we know her from? Where don't we know her from is a better question. Obviously, shows like Arrested Development, Archer, seemingly like every show in a guest capacity from like the early 70s until her passing. She was on a number of Quinn Martin episodes back in the day. An episode of McMillan Wife, 2 of The Streets of San Francisco, 2 of Barnaby Jones, and she did an episode of Cannon back in 1972.
Can I mention something about Jessica Walter?
Mm-hmm.
She was in a season 3 episode of Knots Landing.
Oh, darn. I was hoping you were going to say she was in Wings. And you declare how it's your favorite show and how 300 episodes ago was the first time in history you ever revealed that you enjoy Wings. Well, like I said, she did maybe not everything, but seemingly everything from like the 70s through 2020, 2021, her passing. She wasn't on Wings, but I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention she voiced Fran Sinclair on Dinosaurs as well. And we love our dinosaurs around here. Episode 6 is titled Beatlemania. I mentioned this earlier, that this would be one of the episode titles, so that sort of gives us a timeline of about 1964 for when this show took place. While visiting her friend who is a nurse, Joanie is convinced she saw Paul McCartney at the hospital. We don't even really have a name for a person who may have looked like Paul McCartney. We've got a general title of man, nobody of note. But one name I'm going to mention, playing Mr. Cassidy in this episode, is Kurt Ayers. There's one reason and one reason alone why I mentioned Kurt Ayers, Greg, and you're going to absolutely love this. Just like Scott Baio, Kurt Ayers was in the award-winning 1982 movie Zapped. He played Art.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I wonder how many Oscars he won for that performance. I could hear everybody listening to the podcast saying, ha ha ha, he didn't win any. And then I could hear one person saying, he didn't win any Oscars for Zapped. Zapped was a stupid movie. Thanks for ruining the joke, that one person.
You know, it was probably too stupid to think that that was real and Zapped actually won Oscars.
Don't say David Stearns.
Oh, you damn well bet David Stearns would be stupid enough to think that happened.
And he'd probably have a big smirk on his face the entire time.
No, no, I actually won Oscars. I'm stupid. No, I'm going to give concepts of an idea to pay $50 million to a closer, but you're only going to get 2 years because I'm David Stearns and I'm stupidly smarter than you. I went to Harvard.
I think we have our newest and final character for 2025. Greg doing David Stearns until the day he's fired and probably even after that. Episode 7 is titled Best Foot Forward. Against Louise's wishes, Joanie and Chachi go to an exotic French film and try to leave when Al and Louisa show up to watch the same film. We got a couple of names in this episode. First, playing just a cashier is Anne Travolta, sister to Ellen Travolta and also some guy named John Travolta. But we also do have another name. Playing Lawrence, he goes by Tony Imperato in this episode, but we know him better as Carlo Imperato from Fame. And also, he did at least 2 or 3 weeks of Match Game Hollywood Squares Hour. We couldn't do episode 600 without at least one mention to the Match Game Hollywood Squares Hour. There it is. You're welcome, everybody. That's going to take us to episode 8, which is titled Goodbye Del Vecchio's Hello World. After repeatedly being warned about showing up late for and taking excessive breaks during performances, Al and Louisa are left no choice but to fire the band. Don't know where he comes into play in all this stuff, but we have a character named Phil in this episode, and Phil is played by Bill Kirchenbauer. Coach Lubbock from Just the 10 of Us and Growing Pains. And also he did a week of The New Liars Club. But we also talked about him playing a vampire or Dracula type on an episode of Madam's Place. And he did an episode of 18 Wheels of Justice. What can't Bill Kirchenbauer do? Episode 9 is titled Term Paper. Faced with work to do for other classes, Joanie asks Mario to type her 30-page history paper for her. After he finishes it, Mario accidentally burns it on the kitchen stove. When her teacher hands back the graded papers, he notes that Joanie and another students are exactly the same. Meanwhile, Louisa gets an ugly couch, but Al can't bring himself to tell her. Oh, so the dog didn't eat your homework. The stove did. Playing Jerry Wood in this episode is Stephen Baio. Yes, the brother of Scott Baio. In terms of his career, he had 3 episodes of Happy Days as Joey in the final season, 1983-84, 2 episodes of General Hospital in 1982, and then 2 other roles, Evil Laugh, whatever that is, and Hard Rock Nightmare, whatever that is, but that's his career, at least in terms of acting. He's done some producing, but nothing that any of us have probably heard of. Playing the professor, Professor Hollis, is Dean Santoro. He played Raymond Ferguson on 6 episodes of Dallas back in 1985. I figured I'd get a reaction out of you guys because it's Dallas, which is like Knots Landing adjacent.
Oh, that is true, yes. Oh, by the way, hold on. Speaking of Dallas and Knots Landing, I need to tell this story, okay? Mike, did you listen to the latest episode of Omnibus?
The great one?
Yes.
I did not. I started it, but I haven't heard the whole thing.
Okay, well, Ken does make a return in this episode. And somebody made a joke in the Omnibus Futurelinks group about, I just had Dallas Bobby Ewing in the shower vibes. And I posted as a comment to that, damn it, now it's going to be hard to explain on Knots Landing why Carrie and Val's son is named after him. I get a reply, and it says on Facebook from Ken Jennings, wow, deep cut.
I saw that. That was brilliant. Episode 10 is titled My Dinner with Chachi. No. This isn't like a version of My Dinner with Andre. Gosh, I hope not. After preparing a terrible stew for Chachi, Joanie daydreams about their golden years when he leaves her for a woman that can cook. Not wanting her life to mirror the dream, Joanie enlists the help of Louisa to make a great dinner for Chachi. Rico tells Chachi to say the dish is good even if it isn't. Episode 11 is titled Christmas Show. Hey, how appropriate. Christmas is coming up in under a week. Let's see how Joanie and Chachi celebrate their first Christmas together. On Christmas Eve, a night which Al wanted to spend at home with his close family and friends, Rico books the band to perform on the Christmas radio special. After stopping to pick up a hitchhiker on their way to the studio, their van gets stuck in the snow. Well, it is Chicago. They do get a lot of snow. It isn't just wind. Nobody of note in that episode, so we'll go to episode 12, which is titled First Love, Last Love. And I should add, after the Christmas show, the show was on a little bit of a hiatus. This episode, First Love, Last Love, aired on May 17th of 1983, so it got essentially a 5-month respite. Chachi is convinced that Joanie will leave him when her first love comes back on the scene. That love, his name is Bobby Arnold. Played by Ken Wright. He never starred in any one thing. The only thing I could see that he even did 2 episodes of, he did 2 episodes of 8 is Enough in 1980. But he did 1 episode of numerous shows, The Waltons, Too Close for Comfort, Dallas Again, MASH in 1982, Heart to Heart, Riptide, China Beach, Babes. He was on an episode of Babes. How about that? But really, besides that, made a number of appearances in movies that weren't really popular. And his last credit is from 1998. That's going to take us to the final episode, The Elopement. After seeing how much in love Louisa's aunt and uncle are after 50 years of marriage, Joanie and Chachi decide to elope. Aww. Who wants to tell the kids that the series is canceled? You're eloping, you're getting married, but you're canceled. Ha! One name of note, playing Uncle Guido. Oh, that's a great Italian name. Uncle Guido. And here's another good Italian name. Ralph Manza. The one place I know I've seen Ralph Manza's name quite a bit, and it goes back to what I watched just about every weekday morning while getting ready for work. He made quite a few appearances on Adam 12. And when I say quite a few, apparently I thought he was on a heck of a lot more than he was, because IMDb says 3 episodes. I thought I've seen him on a lot more than 3 episodes. Other places you may have seen him, he played Jay Drury on 17 episodes of Banachek, if you remember the mystery movie on NBC back in the day. And he was on 7 episodes of Barney Miller, playing 3 different characters. He was also on 4 episodes of Crazy Like a Fox, since that has started rerunning on MeTV Plus. And 18 episodes of Newhart, playing Bud. Well, I shouldn't say Bud, but just playing Bud. Sorry, Rudy. Your Bud is the only one we can call Bud. That's 17 episodes. Obviously, it sounds like the ratings were good for the first 4 episodes. It merited getting a second season. Or really, let's just say like an extension of the first season. Because, 4 episodes, That's not really a season, I don't think. But then what happened in the 1982-83 season? We do have some ratings numbers, so let's take a look to see what may have happened. We'll start with the first season. I've got a couple of numbers for that first season. We will start with late March, early April of 1982. Out of 50 shows, Joanie Loves Chachi came in at 6th. 6th, that's not bad. And based on the date, this would have been the second episode. The only things that beat Joanie Loves Chachi that week, the Academy Awards, Dallas, 60 Minutes, Three's Company, and Too Close for Comfort. And Happy Days ended up at 11th. So it did better than The Parent Show. For the following week, out of Paul Lynn's favorite number of shows,
Happy 69.
Joanie Loves Chachi came in at 11th. Happy Days at 17th. So clearly, I think ABC at this point is like, we have the next big hit on our hands. It's doing even better than Happy Days. Admittedly, Happy Days is on its last legs. It's got 2 more seasons before it goes kaput. But still, the number 11 show overall in week 3 and number 6 overall show in week 2, you think ABC's got to be doing cartwheels and jumping jacks at this point. And just taking a little bit of a deeper look, in terms of ABC shows, it was 4th for this particular week. Three's Company was 3rd, Too Close for Comfort 4th, and Heart to Heart was 10th. So you got the 4th best show on the network after not even a month. Like I said, ABC's got to be absolutely just beyond themselves. But then we go to the second season, and obviously there's got to be a reason why this show did not see a 3rd season. Going through some ratings really fast, for the last week of October of 1982, out of 75 shows, Joanie Loves Chachi came in at 36. That's a bit of a drop, going from 6 or 11 all the way down to 36. Yet Happy Days, it was at 13th. So it was still in that high teens range, in the high 10s. Looking really fast at some other weeks, only 3 weeks later than the ratings I just gave you, so we're talking 3rd week of November of 1982, out of 70 shows, Joanie Loves Chachi is tied for 57th. That's a drop. 2 weeks later, out of 68 shows, tied for 61st. So it's just going down the tubes. To me, it sounds like people just are not catching Joanie Loves Chachi fever. The numbers are just absolutely plummeting. And as I said, it went on hiatus after the Christmas episode in December, and it didn't return until May. That's not good. I'm guessing the network wanted to do a little retooling, see if they could do something to salvage the show. And 2 episodes later, they said, it's not worth it. They tried with them getting married, their elopement. Again, that didn't really necessarily do anything to the ratings. But now, if we take a look at the schedule, we know that, based on the ratings we just mentioned, it pummeled the competition in the end of the 1981-82 season. If we take a look at the schedule, Joanie Loves Chachi aired at 8:30 p.m. on ABC on Tuesday nights, right after Happy Days. Pretty plush time slot. And actually, that entire night, this was ABC's night. Happy Days at 8, Joanie Loves Chachi at 8:30, Three's Company at 9, Too Close for Comfort at 9:30, Heart to Heart at 10. That's a pretty stacked lineup if you ask me. On CBS, you had something called QED, an adventure television series set in Edwardian England, starring Sam Waterston as Professor Quentin Everett Deverell. Oh, that's cute. QED, Quentin Everett Deverell. And he was some sort of like Sherlock Holmes type of character. Lasted 6 episodes.
So, what year was this show?
82.
Okay, so this would have been 2 years before he was nominated for an Oscar for The Killing Field, Sam Waterston.
Yes, and obviously long before he was on Law and Order. I should also add Joanie Loves Chachi went up against the second half hour of QED. It was a 1 hour series. On NBC, it went up against the second half hour of Brett Maverick, the sequel series to Maverick from back in the day. Maybe America didn't want Westerns necessarily in 1982.
But they did 12 years later.
True, but yeah, I'm just thinking about the 80s. You didn't have many Westerns that lasted very long. I mean, we could talk about Best of the West, even though that's maybe not a Western in the truest sense of the word. But yeah, the Westerns kind of died off like 10 years earlier. Yeah, Gunsmoke ended in 75, and I think Bonanza lasted till like 73, 74 once Dan Blocker passed away. So yeah, it's just a genre that was past its time, past its peak. To start for the 1982-83 season, Joanie Loves Chachi moved to 8 p.m. on Thursday nights. Following Joanie Loves Chachi is a show that we talked about once, Star of the Family, which had Brian Dennehy actually in a comedic role. Go figure. That's something I never thought I'd say. Brian Dennehy in a comedic role. 9 o'clock was Too Close for Comfort. And then 9:30 was It Takes Two, which we've talked about in the past. And 2020 was on at 10 p.m. The competition to start on CBS, you're not beating the first half hour of Magnum P.I. That's going to do it right there. But then on NBC, this wasn't a ratings juggernaut, but the show lasted quite a while. I don't think you're necessarily beating the first half hour of Fame on NBC.
Mike, I got some breaking news. Let's play it.
Oh, okay.
This is CNN breaking news.
Chico's internet came back.
What?
Eat it, Spectrum!
Well, good. Our national crisis is over, and Santa can take away the wish of you getting, like, functional internet. So, as I was saying, after the hiatus, Joanie Loves Chachi returned to a familiar time spot. 8:30 p.m. on Tuesday nights. Its lead-in to start in the spring was Happy Days, so you had a little familiarity there, hoping that Happy Days gives Joanie Loves Chachi the boost that it got the previous season. Again, the rest of the schedule, though, isn't too bad. Three's Company at 9, and 9 to 5 at 9:30, and Heart to Heart at 10. What's going up against Joanie Loves Chachi in spring and summer of 1983? On CBS, you had Gun Shy, which, based on what I can see, sounds like a sitcom based on Westerns. So, hey, we just mentioned Westerns were sort of dead in 1982. Hey, let's try a sitcom about Westerns. Don't think that's going to work out too well for you. And on NBC, you are not beating the second half hour of the A-Team. That was just the final nail in the coffin, I fear. So Joanie and Chachi, they got eloped. The network canceled them. And we'll never know if they lived happily ever after. And we'll never know what happened to the band. But what we do know is this. Joanie Loves Chachi was released on DVD. In 2014, the entire series, all 17 episodes, was released on DVD. So it's out there. However, I don't think I've seen Joanie Loves Chachi pop up on any fast channels. I know there's a fast channel for Happy Days on Pluto TV. I haven't seen it pop up there. Don't know if there's any sorts of rights issues or if maybe the people running the channel are like, no, we're cool. We'll just keep it as Happy Days. We're not going to put in this series and taint what people think of the Happy Days franchise. But also at the same time, I don't think they show Laverne and Shirley either. I don't even think Laverne and Shirley has its own dedicated fast channel. And Shirley, since Joanie Loves Chachi is on DVD, somewhere online, I'm sure somebody ripped all the episodes. So you can watch them for yourself. Determine if it's as bad as people say, especially that second season, once the initial shine wore off. If you are looking for it on eBay, good news, prices are not bad. Doing a quick little look, you can find the entire series, brand new, not even used, for generally around $15. That's $15 too much for any of us to pay to watch it. Sorry, eBay sellers. But also, actually, while doing the eBay search, believe it or not, there actually was a Joanie Loves Chachi book, a TV tie-in book. And taking a look, there's actually a copy with a $4.99 buy it now. So if you want to get the Joanie Loves Chachi book, go quick. I'm sure it's just flying off the shelf. Exclusive edition, a novelization from the hit ABC TV series. Oh, clearly this is written in the first season when it says hit TV series. Be the first in your crowd to read this exclusive novelization of the hit ABC TV spinoff from Happy Days. Joanie Loves Chachi reached the number 2 spot of most watched TV series after only 3 weeks on the air. Follow the adventures of Joanie and Chachi as they experience all the joys and tribulations of young love in this amusing and heartwarming story. Meet their friends Annette, Mario, and Bingo, and get to know the rest of the crowd at Del Vecchio's restaurant as you laugh, sigh, maybe even cry over these zany but very human episodes, guaranteed to increase your enjoyment of the latest TV hit series. You also get pages and pages of pictures of Joanie and Chachi and all their friends. I know y'all are just chomping at the bit to get that. And watch, I refresh it and somebody bought it. No, it's still available. $4.99 and $4.47 shipping. So for under $10 before tax, you can get this. Please, go get it. Waste your money. No, I insist. And there's another book, a little bit better condition, for $6. Same book. So what can we say about Joanie Loves Chachi? They tried. Joanie did love Chachi. They had fun together. They made music together. America, they enjoyed that love and music, at least for 4 episodes. But then it came back for season 2, and the bloom was off the rose. Joanie Loves Chachi just became our 600th thing on TV. Okay, not 600 because we've done revisited, but you know what? That sounds really good. Joanie Loves Chachi became our 600th thing on TV. You can find us at our website, itwasathingontv.com, on Facebook at It Was a Thing on TV podcast, and elsewhere at It Was a Thing on TV. You can find us on any podcast player, and we're also on YouTube, where you can subscribe to our channel to keep up to date with our releases, including what's coming up next time.
So, guys, we got 2 things lined up for you. First is something that we haven't done in a long while. We're going to have a special live show for you on Christmas, on Sunday. And it's wrapped in a bowl that's turned orange.
Burnt orange.
Oh, whatever the line was. Yes, folks, we are doing something that we've teased and thought about doing for a long time now. We're doing a live show for Bebo Home for the Holidays. Because what says Christmas like watching the living mascot for the Texas Longhorns in his natural habitat?
And Greg, we're going to talk, maybe not extensively, but we're going to talk about a certain wide receiver who played for the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yes. But also we're probably going to talk about things to fill time while watching Bebo do his thing.
So you're telling me when we do that episode, I shouldn't bring a burger along?
No, he'd probably be offended by that, Devo. He'd probably go after us like he did Ugga that one time.
But beyond that, what's coming up on episode 601?
Oh, man. We're at the 600s now. Could you imagine if when we get to the 670s, it'll probably be long since out by then, but could you imagine we'll just do the 670, 670, 671, 672, 673, 674. You get it. Well, when we get to the countdown to the end at the 690s, we're going to have a lot of fun with that. You know that, Mike. Yeah, 601. Well, what happens when you remake a beloved Christmas classic with that girl? You get her guardian angel that, according to Warren Beatty, was the best F in Hollywood. If you don't believe me, ask Richard Kind. He said it. He told the world this. But who is exactly the best F in Hollywood, you ask? Well, I'm not going to say it here. You're going to have to find out about that in our next episode of It Was a Thing on TV. Thank you for listening to episode 600. I'm Greg. That was Mike. And that was Chico. Please be kind to each other. Wow!
Joe's isn't done yet.
Justin! I love you!
I love you. Joanie loves Chachi.